The next level of Agent Unknown is finally ready. Yes. But first of all, two things. Agent Unknown is a web game. Go, click the link in the description and play it in your web browser. You might want to play it before watching this video. And second, welcome to my new 2 subscribers. Thank you for 3 comments on the last video and 1 like on Unity Connect. With that said, let's get started. I had a really bad launch day when publishing the last level. The plan was to publish the game on Unity Connect and the YouTube video simultaneously. It turns out that plan was crap. When publishing the game on Unity Connect, I had to face the truth. It ran on 5 to 10 frames per second. I was completely unable to play it. So I spent a really stressful day figuring out what the beep was wrong. Here are 6 things I have tried which did not help at all. First, limit the render distance of the camera. Second, look at Unity's performance analytics. Third useless point, seeing Unity's performance analytics and seeing that the garbage collector takes a lot of processor power. I tried to limit that by limiting the frame rate, but the garbage collector was not the problem. Fourth, trying to optimize my code. Pointless. And most importantly, reducing the amount of enemies dramatically by dynamically loading and unloading them. That one was a lot of work. And the last point, playing other people's 30+ FPS microgames and trying to figure out what I've made differently. The most painful thing about finding the problem was the building process. Every time I thought I have solved some issues with the game and it would now run smoothly on Unity WebGL, I had to build it, which takes ages, not like 5 minutes, more like many minutes, and then upload it, only to figure out that the changes I have made make absolutely no difference. Well, I lied to you about the last point. I have to confess that playing other people's microgames was indeed helpful, but only after I gave up, went to bed and had a look at it with fresh eyes at the next morning. I found microgames which had huge amount, like 20 enemies active at the same time, so the amount of enemies was not the problem. Furthermore, I realized that I used pretty basic stuff in my FPS microgame. Everything was standard. The only thing which I had but other microgames did not have was the tree I designed in the last video. I deleted it and got 25 FPS instantly. It was all the fault of this one stupid tree. This is why the version you could play up to now did not include the tree. Later I figured out that the new 25 FPS limit was caused by my computer trying to render the game at 4K. So if you have a medium computer but a 4K monitor, set your resolution to Full HD before playing the game, because WebGL always tries to render at display resolution. Okay, so now finally, let's talk about the stuff that is new. I already told you that there's no longer a tree on that rock. Now it's a cactus. I found it in the standard Unity assets. But that's a small detail. Let's look at the big new changes. Well, now there's a second level and a level transition scene between level 1 and level 2. Furthermore, there's now a respawn mechanic. If one dies, he or she gets respawned at the last checkpoint. However, there was a little issue with this. Every time one got respawned, the game got reset to its original state, meaning that one loses the health upgrades and all the enemies which were already dead are now alive again. This made respawning very frustrating. So I created a static game object, which contains a dictionary containing the current game state. Every enemy and pickup gets an ID based on its original spawn position. With that ID, it then registers in the dictionary if it is dead or still alive. This dictionary is then used to look up if enemies are dead or still alive when respawning the player. It also stores your current progress of the game. I was very pleased to see this beautifully working with dynamic loading of the enemies. Because fun fact, dynamic loading of enemies, which I implemented on launch day to unsuccessfully get rid of FPS issues, I never removed that one. This new respawning and game state saving mechanic allows me to make much more difficult enemy placement. If the player cannot win first try, he or she can at least try to kill a few enemies. Then on next try there will be less enemies. I took this really far and made a really difficult fight at the end of level 2. The teaser you have seen at the end of last video, well, there are now 2 of those bad boys. I mean, the end fight got kind of difficult. I spent about a day designing it. It was really straightforward. Take the existing prefabs, change some attributes and off you go. It all worked rather well, except the raid enemy turret in the middle of the elevator room. He has a shield on his head to make it more difficult to attack him without entering the elevator room. I basically wanted to avoid that someone just kills him from the distance. Since I already had the hidden turrets, I figured, well, just make them red, rotate them and stick them to the wall. However, it turned out that rotating destroyed my animation. At this point I need to mention that I did not really animate the head shield. I just did it using a quick fix. In other words, I just wrote a script that updates the head shield's position to make it stick to the head. However, my quick fix could not handle the rotation of the turret very well. The head shield was no longer sticking to the robot's head, it was offset by something. So I tried another quick fix and changed the animation. I had no motivation that day and put no effort into it. Unity responded to my low effort by doing this. It's funny because someone mentioned a very similar bug to me in the comments of the last video. I, however, did not fix the animator bug. I restored the original animation and the original animator, undid all my changes, and then gave it another try and solved the issue by figuring out that the head shield was rotating around a pivot point, which was not in the middle of the head. So I just moved the pivot point to the middle of the head and it worked. With all that done, I used ProBuilder to make the elevator prefab, the elevator door prefab and the elevator button prefab. And this time I properly used the animator to animate the door. Then I added some voice lines and declared the second level as finished. One voice line commented on the mushrooms in the cave. On the note of the mushrooms, I spent some time sculpting with Blender, making mushrooms and crystals for the cave. It was the first time I've used Blender, and there's something I want to clarify for the future. I'm not making and will probably almost never make assets for my games myself. I just don't have the time for that. It already took me 5 months to find enough free time to make this second level. And this second level did not take much longer than a week to complete. In my life situation, I have 2 options. Either to make games in a similar way to modding by using other people's assets, or not to make games. And I want to make games. So be aware that I will probably work with a lot of free or bought assets in the future. And subscribe, because since I don't have a lot of time to work on my game dev projects, it is impossible to predict when the next level will be published. The only way for you to figure it out is by subscribing to my YouTube channel. And another reason to subscribe, my channel is so small that without subscribing, you will probably never find it again. I want to end this video by a little challenge. There are 5 increase max health pickups in this game. Find all of them. Some are very well hidden.